Hello, this is almost end of October and our feedback session is live for October work and of course the previous tutorials from other months. We will start and I will share my screen. We also have few questions, but we will start with, so first I have here this apple from a student.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Yes, we have some apples. Oh, where's so here's the reference. She moved a little bit the composition to the side. I don't know how to put this reference. Wait a second. I will try to make it small like this and come on, make it smaller. No, it's making smaller. So I hope we will see. So she slightly move it to the side, not straight as it is on my example. So when you are changing composition, first of all, when I take photos of the reference, I really think about composition, how it's going to look. I count, for example, how many leaves are there or how many flower buds. Everything is important for the composition to work, to see that when you are looking at painting and you are just calm the way it all looks together. If you start to feel something isn't there, something isn't working, it means that something is wrong with composition, and you just can't really simply, oh, I will move it. If you want to change something in the composition or you took your own reference photos, first I would recommend you can do little thumbnails on the paper, on the plain paper, and play with the simple lines of composition. For example, this apple, you could take a different piece of paper, plain paper, draw little thumbnails, and there you can just simply draw this apple and make it like this or make it like this, remove some parts of the apple and see if it is working. Other thing, what I sometimes do, I take from the reference my subjects, I cut them out from plain paper and I place them on paper and see how is working my composition. It's not like I just took a photo and then I go straight away and paint. I really think about the composition, how it's going to look. I'm not recommending just going straight on original paper and paint it, because when first we are trying with simple lines on simple paper, we can always erase, do again. But as soon as we start painting, there's no way back. And she also noticed at the end the composition isn't quite working. And yes, it looks like apple is falling. If we will place this paper as it is straight, the feeling will be off because it looks like apple is falling out of the paper. So it's really tricky with this composition. But again, we are here learning. It's completely okay and better to have these mistakes than we really understand that we need to be careful also with compositions. If I'm just saying that to you, you like, oh yes, I will remember that. But only when we do those mistakes, we understand, yes, not doing that again. But okay, enough about the composition. About the apple, I can see that also many layers are done and the colors are nice. Where's my reference? Here, let's have a look at the reference. Maybe this part could be a little bit cooler pigments. Everything looks really warm about this apple, but this area is cool. I placed there permanent rose and I think manganese violet. They compared to the rich red pigments were much cooler and made that contrast from this light area to this shadow area. To have cool and warm, it also helps to establish tonal values. I would add a little bit more shadow here and a little bit even more here, because if I squint my eyes and look at this apple, then all tonal values here are the same. And that makes this apple a little bit looking not so three-dimensional. If we add more shadow here and up here, it will instantly help to make it more rounder and three-dimensional. About leaves, be really careful with veins. They're much, much thinner. They're so thin, especially, let me zoom. Why it's not zooming? Oh, now zooming. So we almost don't see where that vein is ending because it's become so thin and fragile. And especially it's autumn time and these leaves are almost losing their life. They're dying, which means that leaf veins are becoming even thinner. Closer to end of their life, veins are becoming super thin. And also with graphites, it's much better. They are really thin, but you should do the same with watercolors. Just when you are adding the shadow, you can make it thinner and thinner. Oh, it's moving like this. Okay. And with the graphite and all this apple composition, it asks for me to make something with bigger contrast. For example, this leaf can go darker, this leaf can go darker, definitely can go darker. I also had the same problem with my apple. I thought that I was almost finished, and then I took a photo of my work and placed beside the reference, and I show that in tutorial. And then I noticed that my leaves, this and this, are missing contrast, darker shadows. And then I spent extra time to add here and here, and I think also here I added more layers to separate them, because this and this in this painting, they are completely the same. When we look here, this is light, the darker, this is also almost very dark, but there are some lights here, and this is the lightest. And more difference between areas, tonal values. And don't be afraid with graphite, add more. You can definitely add more here and definitely add more here. I would also add shadow on this part, because you see how it is here darker and this is lighter. Everything depends how subject is placed towards the light. Is it turned, and how the light source is hitting the surface, and where it's casting shadow, making something lighter, something darker. Okay, let's move to the next one. Then we have this, it's a photo. This is from Skillshare tutorial that I uploaded this month, which is available for free, and you can try. And this rose is done beautifully, really detailed and accurate. I can't have this. No, I can't have them both on one screen. And I'm not sure where's the reference. Okay, so here a little bit more shadow, just little things with contrast. Also, this part could be also in the shadow. And oh, sorry. I'm not. Wait a second, I can't get it back. Okay, I will come back to that rose. I'm just not so familiar with this program where the paintings were sent. I will continue a little bit later, get it back. Wendy, I want to have your apple. So you are leaving. Here it is. So you removed some leaves and you added watercolors. Great, that is completely okay. You can do all apple and graphite with leaves, or all apple with the watercolors and leaves. It's your choice. Also, this month's skull with the lily flower can also be done. Everything in graphite or everything in watercolors is up to you. It's amazing that you are experimenting. That's the purpose of our learning here.
Mm-hmm.
And this part can go a little bit darker.
Mm-hmm.
Leaves, if we compare, it's slightly curved and it's not completely placed straight toward light source. Is a little bit on the angle, and that's why it's in the shadow. Here we have shadows, great. And this one can also a little bit darker, this and here lights are great, don't touch them. And this one can go, this part can go darker because it's turned upside down and it's going away from light source, and it's, look at here, it's completely dark. This so to create this tonal value of movement, we need here more darkness. Let's check the apple. I would also add a little bit more contrast here and here to make it even more rounder. You did amazing job. It looks so fluffy and round. You don't have these crisp edges. You did everything really good here. Those crisp edges are really challenging sometimes because this is also a control of water, control of brush strokes, of layers. So maybe it looks simple, but it's not simple. And you did these edges really good. I would think that shadow here and here would give extra boost for make it even more rounder. Stem could have shadow right over here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it will also help to make it more rounder. Don't touch the light side, which is on the left, but only only the right side. The right side of the stem to make it darker. This one also is good. Yeah, a little bit work here, a little bit work here. Also, here you can have a crisp edge, because here somebody ate this little piece of leaf and left some dying parts which are crisp. Why we are making fluffy edge where is apple? Because it's round and it's going away that we don't see. But this part is the end. There's nothing going around. So we need to create this visual illusion. When we have something crisp, it means that this is the end. And if something is fluffy, then we understand that it's like it's going bye-bye. So if something is crisp, then it means that it's in. And something is fluffy, it's round. Also, this part can go darker because this leaf is casting shadow on this part. And you didn't add extra dots. Yeah, because also completely okay. You could even not add them at all. It was optional, but looking good, looking good. About that you removed some leaves, it's your choice. How do you see? How is your composition working?
Well, I tried to leave an odd number of leaves. So
yeah, that's good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, the reason I didn't put more leaves in, I was getting really tired of painting green. I don't know. We did so many leaves, and there's something about the green color that was kind of getting to me. So no logical reason, just a weird.
Completely okay, and but you did really good work. You did really good work.
Oh, thank you.
If you will have some energy for this apple, I would add shadow here
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you can even leave this out, just a little bit here
Mhm.
and this one, and stem.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Just
Thanks
a
so
little
much.
bit, just a little bit. And this is really good work. This is really good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think you also are happy with your result. It looks good.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go further. I have this painting, but I don't have a reference, and I always suggest to please add reference, because I can't really compare to something and give I can give some feedback, but again, I need to compare with realistic painting. It's all about reference. If that would be an illustration, it's amazingly done, wonderful. You're good to go, finish. But if we're talking about realistic painting, we need to compare with original, because in original reference we have all information, all data is there. But what I can see is also, again, I don't know how it is in reference, maybe veins can go a little bit thinner, maybe accuracy with edges of hydrangea flower. And also what is missing, if I squint my eyes, then what is different is this black spot here. Everything else looks the same in terms of tonal values. Lights and darks and shadows, there's nothing too obvious to say where are lights or where are shadows. Everything is like one everything is in the same, almost in the same tonal values. Of course, leaves stand out, but I would add contrast to hydrangea flowers. For example, again, I don't have a reference, so I really don't know. So what is happening here? Which petal or flower head is overlapping this one? Then if here is shadow, maybe everything here could be a little bit darker to separate petals, separate flower heads. You are separating with outlining, but in realistic painting, we're not outlining, we are separating with tonal values, with shadows. And you wouldn't need to outline if you would add shadow here, or if you would add shadow here to separate this petal from this one. Somebody is joining. So again, to separate these 1, 2, 3, we can add shadow here, because it looks like this petal is under these two. So I would add shadow here. Then again, we don't need to outline, we need to add shadow. It would be nice to see the reference, and also here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals are all in the same tonal value. There's no visible light and there's no visible shadow. For example, it looks like this petal is overlapping this from the information that I can see. I would add shadow here instead of this dark outline. I would add shadow here, and then they would look more naturally separated one from each other if we have shadow, because petals are casting shadow. And because everything here is in the same tonal value, this little insect is almost not visible, only because everything is really, we need contrast. Contrast is helping us to establish what is closer to us, what is further from us, what is more important, which is bigger in front, and what is maybe further from our eyesight and needs to be paler. That's how we also are establishing this three-dimensional look. And with these leaves, the same. For example, these two, if we look at them, I can't really tell which is above and which is lower. Forgot the word. So which is on the leaf and which is under the leaf. They look like they are placed together, and there's no shadow. This, I guess, is stem. Is it darker than the background, or is it lighter than the background? If it's lighter, then we need to add more to the background. Important to compare with reference. 2, you can work on this painting more. It's just to need more careful observation of reference if you have one. I think you have, because it's already quite rich painting. And add more contrast, add more shadows to separate. For example, what is happening here, it is hard to tell. This is really advanced and quite tricky painting. Hydrangeas are like one of the top advanced painting subjects, because there's so many details and you need to take into consideration everything. So maybe if you have a reference, you could send in, and I could we can talk a little bit more next time to get more precise information. Here we have a hydrangea, and even I want to tell you, this is the tutorial I did, and I remember this hydrangea, but still, when I'm giving feedback, I'm comparing with the reference photo, because my mind is not so rich to remember all the details that is in the reference. And when I look at this painting, yes, it's beautiful, but again, to make something changes and to learn something, we need to look at the reference and compare with the reference. There's all information. And look how each hydrangea petal is separated, not with outlines. Even this flower head is completely in light, we think, yes, but if we look closer, then this petal is overlapping this one, and here we have a little bit shadow. It's very subtle, but there is shadow, because if we compare these two petals, this one is lighter and this one is slightly darker. Of course, this one is even more darker, but if we compare 1, 2, 3, the lightest, slightly darker, and the darkest. Again, here it is slightly in the shadow, but again, here we are not outlining, but here is the shadow. This petal is casting on this, and that's how we are separating. And all information is in the reference. We don't need to think where's shadow, where's light. We just need to look. Okay, let's move to this hydrangea flower from the student, and she did amazing work, really smooth, careful paintings. And what I can say, okay, but I need to say something, right? Let's start with flower. In order to look, I also, closer to finishing, I squint my eyes and I try to understand in all this big mass of so many petals, where is the lightest part in general and where is the darkest part, because still this flower head is round. If we are not even looking at each flower head separately, but the whole hydrangea flower head is round, so it means somewhere these little flower heads are lighter and somewhere darker. And this part, light source is coming from left, this part is darker. I would add a little bit here, a little bit more darkness, because if I will compare this petal to this one, they are almost looking in the same tonal value. But if I here in this reference compare this one to this one, this all area is darker. There are some bits here and there that are also light, but in general, this part is darker compared to this one. This is really light, which is also good, and it's create this fluffy illusion that there is this roundness, but I would add a little bit more contrast here to make it even rounder. Also careful with these inner parts. You could add, for example, this one is darker, this one is darker. This could have a little bit more details. Come on. Okay, and maybe a little bit here. You left it really, really light. A little bit more, because now it's also looks a little bit like you outlined, but you are not outlining. It's just how you applied first layer, and that's where the watercolor stopped. It looks to me. And I would add a little bit more shadow to make these lines not so obvious, right? And another thing, wait, this, I don't know, this little piece and this little, they really jump out, and it looks like it's not painted at all, like you forgot to paint. They are light. For example, this is light, but they're not so light. It looks like there's no layer at all. And they are like jumping out of the soul composition. And this one is not so light. Okay, but like I'm finding little details that you can level up. It's really nice work. It's really amazing. I'm just showing you where you can get even better. Okay, let's look at the leaf. And I know that you want to go for SBA, so these are the things that those teachers will look for and will give you marks. So this is like, they are not just looking, oh, it's beautiful. They're going like, they're putting on their glasses and going like this and looking at your work. So if you want to go to SBA, so you need to really look for those details. And these two looks like they are forgotten. About the leaf, let's make it a little bit closer. And leaf is done wonderfully. And I would add more shadow on this part. Oh, this part is already good. Maybe a little bit here, like this one and this, like 1, 2, and 3. They are really obvious shadows, like here, here, and here. And I would add a little bit more here. I squint my eyes and I look at the reference, and I can clearly see that this part is darker because it's slightly curved, like this, and then the light source is coming and slightly missing this part of the leaf, so it's a little bit darker. This part and this part is darker, but this is okay. You've done an amazing job. Veins are so fine and so realistic. Beautiful, beautifully done. Amazing. Okay, let's move to the next one. We have poppy flower. Beautiful poppy flower. Okay. Okay, this white line stands out. We have shadow, and you could just add a little bit more watercolor wash here to calm it down. There's no white line here. Okay. This part could be a little bit in the shadow. Look at this one. Just a little bit calm this center part of the poppy, and especially this part in the shadow. What else? About the color, maybe it can go a little bit of lemon yellow in these. Your painting looks almost white here, but these again are personal preferences. I would add some lemon yellow and not leave it so white. But again, I think you've done a really good work with this poppy, and it looks beautiful, beautiful. Just little details like this line stands out. This maybe stands out a little bit too much. And you can decide with these light areas. It's again, it's a personal preferences. For me, it looks, the poppy is really red and yellowish. It's so vibrant with these colors. But you can leave as it is. Just little things, just little things. Okay. What we have next? We have this tulip petals. Here are 2 tulip petals. And student is experiencing problems with making this curved and realistic to make it curved. And as I look at your work, it's not finished. You are only in middle part of painting process. As I look at it, on it, you can do a lot of things because you're painting transparently, which is amazing. You left a lot of light area, which is also amazing. And you need to work on contrast, add more details, add more layers. For example, let's tackle this one. Now we are looking at reference, and what I see here, there is darker area on the outer left side and darker area on the outer right side. You have everything light. So I would go with finer brush, transparent watercolor mix of, I don't quite remember. I think there was permanent rose with a little touch of, it looks like yellow or Sennelier red, but there's a little bit of some warmth of yellow. And I would add fine brush strokes right over here, leaving this part unpainted light, and also would add definitely here. You have this part in the same color that is behind those lines, this middle part. And when you will add here brush strokes and here brush strokes and make these 2 parts darker, then you are adding more layers with fine brush strokes, but you are adding, they're super light. Like, look at these lines here where are crossing this whole section. They are so light. Like this is really light. So the same light lines you need to apply here. When you will have darker here and darker here, you will go all the way in the direction that is this curve. We're not making them straight. We have a little bit curve of each brush stroke, and that will help you make it more 3-dimensional. You are just in the middle process of painting this tulip, and you ask if it can be saved or you need to start over. There, I don't see a problem to continue. There's little here, but that's not a problem. That's not a big deal. You can still practice on this work. You can add more layers. This is, again, this is just, you are in the middle. You also asked about gray. If there's not too much gray, I would add even more, but only after more contrast will be added here, here, and here, and here. Don't touch these darker parts. They are already dark. This and this part, they are already dark. Just add more finer brush strokes here. Look at these long, beautiful dark lines. Look at these lines. Everything with fine brush strokes. Lesser amount of water, transparent watercolor mix, and go with fine brush strokes. And more, definitely more. Super careful with Perylene Violet if you have, for example, and mix a little bit of lemon yellow and add those little dots like these marks of these little things, pollen that is on these anterns, and with little stippling with the very tip of the brush. Okay, so you need to work more. And it's not about saving or starting over, it's about continuing to work on the same painting. Okay, let's move forward. We have rose, and it was made longer with the stem, which is good. Okay, what do we have here? Amazingly done, fluffy sepals. I would add shadow here. Instead of outlining these parts, we don't need to outline. Also here, I would add shadow right over here. Look, there's no outlines. It's just a shadow. Okay. Here, all the way shadow. Here, this is not an outline. It's a shadow of inner part of the rose. So you can add shadow here and here. And to separate this little curve with this part, again, no need to outline, and especially with such a dark and intense watercolor mix, it looks like something very dark violet. You could add here layers of what that was, Sennelier red with a little touch of Perlin maroon, and just add layers here, and that's how we are separating. Okay, this also, be very careful when you are using dark watercolor mixes, because as you apply them, you can't get them off. And if they are too dark, too intense, it makes, they are really standing out. They're standing out even too much. Beautifully done. I like that you tried also making it longer with the stem and leaves. Amazing. You added extra details like here, also great. Maybe this one could be a little bit on the side, like it is here. You could place it a little bit on the side. It would look more natural, more realistic. And this rose, yeah, a little bit work with the shadow. Remember that we are not outlining, but we are adding shadow to separate something. Okay. Let's look. Then we have this. The same darker color you are using, so be very careful with that. Be very careful. And you could also, if you were adding, you're like stylizing this tulip, that's completely okay. You're experimenting with styles, completely okay. But if you added darker here, you could also add it right over here, because this petal inside is just one whole petal. And if you are adding darker these lines here, you could went right over here as well, and here as well. And then if you would go with this darker color in between those yellows, you would even make it more realistic. And it's nice that you left light area. Amazing. So experimenting with styles and making something with your own touch is always welcoming, and that's how you are finding your approach of painting and what is best for you. Now we have this peony. Okay. So this light area is maybe too light. It happens very rarely that something is too light, but this could be a little bit not so intense. And then this contrast between light and petal is also too obvious and too intense. And it looks like, or you forgot to paint something here, or what is happening here. If you would make this transition a little bit smoother, I don't know if it's white paint or if it's Here I can see that you added white paint and also on the drops, but I can't tell what is this one. So be very careful with white gouache paint. It's sometimes when added in one layer, it more looks like gray rather than white, and nothing is as white as the paper. Even if the paper isn't completely white, it's maybe like cream color, it still will be lighter than white gouache paint. It's just how watercolors work. We are always reserving white area from of the paper in the beginning layers. That's why I'm also in the tutorials, I apply watercolors, leaving light areas even wider than they appear in the reference. And be more accurate with line drawing. If you are drawing by yourself, you don't want to use my outlines, that's also completely okay, but then be really careful with line drawing of your subject. First, still, if you are even doing it freehand, you need to do it on plain paper. You sketch it, you find the right composition of your work, and then you are still need to transfer it to original painting. We are not sketching on original watercolor paper, but first we are sketching and drawing outline on simple paper and then transferring. And when you're doing it freehand, be more accurate with subjects, because now you have, I think, some extra petals here than it is here, and it looks a bit crowded. For example, this is one whole petal, and here it looks like this is one, then this is two, and then there's three. Yeah, and this is one petal, and you have one here, then one here. Yeah, so be more careful with line drawings. You can do it freehand, of course. I'm not like pressing that you only need to use my line drawings. No, if you are doing it by yourself, you still need to be more accurate. Okay, what we have next? We have a dog, an amazing, beautiful doggy. And first thing that's catches my attention too much in the painting, then it's something is off. These white areas around eyes and this one, look here, they're not so obvious here, especially the upper part of the eye. Look, it's much darker, and you have it super light. You just need to calm it down with a layer of watercolors. I know that you are working on this beautiful dog portrait a long time, but a little more attention, just little details will make it even better. So this lower part, leave it light. Here it is light, completely okay. But here, no, because, for example, this part of the head is in the shadow. So it means everything about here is darker than it's here. In your work, they are identical. Look, the same what is happening here is happening here. But if we look on the reference, it's lighter, it's darker. You just need to squint your eyes and look at both sides. Then you will start to notice, oh yeah, the right side is much darker, not like much darker, but it's darker. And if you look here, you have everything the same on both sides. Also, this brown part is slightly darker than this little part. Okay, but especially everything around this eye is darker. Only this little white dot, leave it as it is. Leave it as it is. It's shiny part. They are always happening with eyes, but this part goes darker. You just need to carefully add watercolor layer, but again, don't go too dark. Do it gradually. Apply one layer, let it dry, take a look. Is it working or is it too light? Then go again with another layer. Leave it there, take a step back and look at it. Also this leaf, oh, sorry, leaf. I'm thinking about my subject. This ear is darker. Again, compare 1 and 2. Even they are black, but the one which is on the left is lighter and the one which is on the right is darker. You have, they are the same. Yes, but they need to be a little bit darker. And also nose. Again, if you squint your eyes and look only at the nose section, you will notice that, and the nose is like this. Dogs have a nose, like upper part goes a little bit further and the lower part goes a little bit underneath. Yes. And then this is the longer upper part is this light source is hitting the surface of that upper part, and then this lower part, which goes a little bit under, is in the shadow because all this part is blocking the light. Now you have, and it looks like the nose is slightly turned up because the light is here too much. If you will calm this area with the layers of transparent watercolor mixes, you will instantly see how the nose changes and starts to stand in the right position. The upper part is a little bit longer, then it goes under. Okay, you need to add calm this light area a little bit. And also when you will be adding layer here, add a little bit on this mouth part. It also is in the shadow. Look at this area and compare to your, yes, it needs a little bit darkness here. If we compare these white fur to the upper part, they are darker compared to these ones, which are completely exposed to light. And like, that's it. You did a really nice correcting with these. I forgot the name of these things that are sticking out of, but yeah, these little things you can do and it will be amazing. You did already a great job, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy painting animals and humans. It's something. Okay, now we have, this is painting and this is reference. Really need to look which is which. Good work. What is about the sleeve? It's almost in the reference. It's almost flat. There are no really visible tonal values. There's no changes in like curves, and it makes showing something natural look realistic. For example, if I'm looking for a reference for leaves or for flower, for example, leaves, especially I like autumn leaves because they are curved and they are creating these different tonal values, cast shadow areas. And those little things like cast shadows areas makes a whole difference in the finished result. If we have something completely flat laying on the surface, it's so hard to make it look realistic because we don't have anything to catch to make it look that it's something realistic. But what we have here in the reference, you showed amazing. You showed everything looks almost the same like it is in the reference. You did an amazing job, but in words of making it look realistic, it's hard because the reference isn't showing us anything that would make our eye understand that it's something realistic. It's about the position of the subject. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying if you want to look something realistic, we need some extra information. Our eyes are looking for some extra information. And when we see something, let's open your next work. So when we see, for example, this leaf and this one, and this one and this one, there are these little shadows, these little cast areas, and we instantly see that it's not completely flat. There's something three-dimensional with that. I hope I sound clear. Again, technically, this is really good, and you did what the reference is saying. All information is there, and I think you are also really happy with your result. Again, I'm just saying that maybe when you will be looking for your own references, try to get some extra information from the subject. For example, it also, if you are taking a photo of some leaf which is almost straight, you can slightly turn it a little bit and photo it under some angle. It will give some extra information to make it look more three-dimensional. Okay. What I can say in this one, maybe somewhere greater precision with these edges, especially here. Here you did great. Here could be a little bit more precision and sharpness, more crispness in those edges. Looks like you here, I think it's pens done with colored pencils. I'm not sure, but it looks like here you overpainted or over covered with colored pencils. Here is the gap. Other way, maybe these veins could be a little bit thinner, but everything else is as it is in the reference. Everything is clear and understandable. Just a little bit crispness at the edges. And here we have the leaves. Wait a second, I will open the painting. And you decided to add shadows. And the thing with the shadows, I think you added them with watercolors. I don't quite understand. But if you, for example, you could add them with graphite pencils, with watercolors. But the thing with the shadows, it's darker, closer to the subject, and it becoming lighter when it goes further from the subject. For example, this, let's look at this, sorry. Here, wait a second, yeah. So we can see that closer to the leaf, the shadow is darker, and then it starts to disappear. As the shadow goes further from the subject, it disappears. In your case, it looks like it's lighter, closer to the subject, and then it at the very end, it's darker. The same with the stem. It's almost slightly touched, the shadow is slightly touching the surface. And again, closer to where the stem is touching paper surface is darker, and then it's almost disappears, and then you can work on these shadows a little bit more. Again, here as well, it's darker, closer to the subject, and it disappears going away. About the leaves, this part can be a little bit darker for the contrast, and some areas also a little bit, yeah, but it's already a good work, a good study, amazing study of autumn leaves. So wait, let me slightly. Yeah. Also here, a little bit maybe contrast here, you see here. And also here, to separate again, this is darker, then it's lighter, and then it's darker again. So a little bit darkness here, leave as it is, and darkness here. But with shadows, it's a matter of practice. The more you will practice, the more you will start to understand the shadow thing. But it's tricky. It's darker, closer to the subject, and then it disappears. It's like evaporates, because Yeah, that's how it doesn't have a sharp finishing edge. Only if the reference was taken in a direct sunlight, then we have a really crisp edge to the shadow. It's not evaporating like it is in this case. Okay, what we have, then we have a reference and the result. Let's move it. This is super detailed, not so easy work, and you did amazing. I like the movement in these shirts that are hanging and drying and looking amazing. Also, I really like how you did this one. It looks I can almost feel the texture and material that are these shields. Wonderfully done. It feels like this is summer day in bright sunlight, super detailed, maybe a little bit more contrast here and there. In this, let's make it a little bit smaller. Here, the effect of this result is the big, really intense contrast. To make everything here looks really calm, you definitely can add more darkness to these really contrasty shadow areas. Look how this lantern is casting shadow. It's really intense. You can definitely go here with more. It looks like blue, ultramarine blue. Also here, or cobalt blue. You can add definitely here, definitely here. This effect of this bright sunny day in southern Italy, it looks like it's done really with these intense shadow areas, and you can add intense shadows right over all this area. Everything else is really good. If you will only work on these contrasty shadow areas, it will all instantly pop because it will make it more realistic. Contrast will make it understand that it's really bright sunlight, and it's done. Beautiful. I love to see your works with different tutorials, different references, that you are experimenting and trying new techniques and ways. This is amazing. Okay, we have a fly agaric mushroom. And what I can say, it looks like you here lost control of water, and you lost some white spots on mushroom head. So just need to be careful. Don't rush things. If you feel like you don't have enough patience, just leave it there, leave it to rest, and come back relaxed. Don't try to maybe finish in one sitting or finish fast. With realistic painting, just take breaks and come back relaxed, because now here it looks like you a little bit rushed things. Here you had patience, and then something happened here, also here. Then about these white spots on mushroom head, they are really light where the light area is, but here it is a little bit darker. I will get the reference. Wait a second. Just a little bit. Where's my reference? Found it. Okay. Share screen. So here we have a reference. So take a closer look. This part of the mushroom head is in the shadow. It goes underneath and it's slightly darker. Also, this part is in the shadow because it's going away from light source, and light source is only hitting this surface. Oh, there are no white spots. Sorry, I thought there were white spots. Okay, so it looks like it's you lost control, but there's no white spots. Sorry for me. I would add a little bit more of these brush strokes that you added here. I would add a little bit also here, because here it looks like you worked really accurate with these areas, but then you didn't put effort here. A little bit more lines. It's really contrasty. That's why I thought that there's some kind of situation where with water, because It doesn't look all in the same painting approach. Like here, you really did accurately, and then you just applied smooth layer, and that's it. More little brush strokes, especially here. It's in the shadow. Look at this part. It's darker. It's hard to tell really with this mushroom head where is light and where is shadow. But again, we need to squint our eyes, and then we start to see, oh, this is lighter. This is definitely darker. Also, looking at these white spots in the light, they're super light as this background. But if we compare this to this, then this looks darker because it's in the shadow. And mushroom has this head which goes underneath, and there is shadow. This can also go a little bit darker, as well as here. Look, it's darker here and here. But you did a really good study of stem and all these little pieces of mushroom, the sand which is still on the base of the mushroom stem. Again, here could be a little bit more shadow, this part. Okay. So a little bit more accuracy, a little bit more work. And then we have a stippling. One student so enjoyed stippling, so she tried different other tutorials, other references that we had with the stippling method, and she really enjoyed this approach. She tried for the first time, and she felt, wow, this is amazing, and she did really good. This magnolia is so detailed and have so many transitions, and there are artists who are only doing stippling paintings. There is this one, Xavier. His name is Xavier, and he's doing amazing, huge paintings just in stippling. He's doing for Dior, Rolex brands, these amazing, beautiful paintings, and only in stippling. But that's, he always, when he finished the works, then he says it took 200 hours or it took 100 hours. So stippling takes time, but it's interesting, and it's the result is beautiful. And here also about the magnolia, I don't have anything to say because it's really detailed. These leaves are so have so many nuances, and I can see the curves, I can see tonal values. They are really done good. With this flower, I don't have a reference, but I would maybe add a little bit more shadow here and a little bit more shadow here. But again, I don't see the reference, and I really don't know. And it really looks detailed. It's amazing. It looks so precise. You can tell all the details from petals, what is happening here. And this magnolia is so detailed and so beautifully done. These all little details right over here, just wow. Again, this is the result, and she did it for the very first time after this rose tutorial that we had with the stippling, and she found out that it's, oh my God, you can do it like this. So when we are experimenting, we can find something that really speaks to us. And we always need to experiment. We need to try new things, try new approaches, try new mediums, until you like, wow, this is something I want to do like forever. And with this, yeah, amazing result, especially this magnolia. Wow. Okay, do we have, oh yeah, we have another apple. We have another apple. The same thing with the leaves at the very end. Remember, as I said, that I placed my painting and the reference side by side and looked and noticed that some leaves are missing more contrast. The same is here. This can go darker. This can go darker, and definitely this one can go darker. This is like the darkest. Look how dark it is. Also, this part can go darker. I know Maria can go more detailed with these leaves. Definitely a little bit darker here, but this one goes darker. And the veins are going much thinner, especially this one. It really stands out. Look how this, because it's in the shadow and we almost, if we squint our eyes, we don't see vein. If I squint my eyes, I don't see vein at all. But if I squint my eyes and look at this one, the vein stands out too much, too much. For example, these veins we see, but here compared to this one, they are almost gone. So definitely tone over and make it darker. The stem needs a little bit shadow. And about the apple, I would not touch anything about the light area, but you could add a little bit shadow here. Even if it looks really dark and you lost light a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's so bad. It's really good. It's really rich in that red color. I would add a little bit here and a little bit here, but only there, like only there. Don't touch this area. Like a little bit here. Look, you see how dark it is here? And you can do even darker. And also here, look how dark. You can add definitely here. So, and I would work a little bit on graphite, make those few a little bit darker. This one definitely darker, okay? And that's it from the Send in Works. Karen, did you send me something? Turn on the mic.
No, it's going to be for the online class is what I've been working on.
Okay, okay, no problems. Then I had a question from one of my students. So how do we avoid overworking the paper if we are adding many layers? And how do I avoid the paper buckling over time as we are adding enough water to add quite a bit of paint in a single layer? So to add many layers, it's important to follow a technique, which is that you are leaving paper to rest. What means leaving paper to rest? You are applying few layers and then stopping. I will switch to my table view. And we have a little bit more time. So, for example, I will really basically draw a flower, or it could be a stem with leaves. It doesn't matter. So if we have multiple subjects in one composition, it's not like I'm physically sitting and waiting for the layer to dry. I apply one layer here. While this area is drying, I'm moving to the next one. And then moving to the next one. And as I reach, this is like first layer. As I reached here, which we started the very first, it's already dry. So I can go over again. If we are doing it with washes or with, I can go next layer. Paper is dry and it doesn't even matter. It's 300 or 400 or 600. It is ready to receive another layer when it is dry. Again, I'm not speaking like, for example, I'm not speaking when I'm adding water with so much puddles that it starts to drip away. It's too much. Water for the paper, it's too much water. I'm adding water, even if I'm holding paper vertically, I can add water and nothing is dripping, no puddles, nothing. I'm talking about this amount of water, and I can add watercolors and nothing is dripping or gathering in puddles. I have a smooth layer. And I applied this, then I would apply next one, next one, next. And when I will apply all these petals or all these leaves, and I came back to this first one, it's already dry, and I can apply next layer. And then I repeat that, and I apply third layer, and fourth, and fifth, and sixth, and 10th. Paper, good quality, watercolor paper can receive many layers. It's all about your approach of how you are handling your materials. If you are adding layer upon a layer upon a layer and upon a layer, of course it will start buckle, it will start to tear off, you will start to damage paper surface. Even 600 GSM paper can be ruined by many watery layers, and brushing and applying in the same area you are doing and painting and not leaving to rest. Even now, doing that for a few times, I already see that the paper in this spot starts to buckle. This is still moist, and I would not apply next layer. And while this is drying, I am working, for example, on other surface, on other areas, like here with this lily flower was the same. I started from here, I continued to this one, then I went, I think, to this one, then to this one, this one, this one, and again I went again here, again there, again there. So I'm all the time working. I'm not sitting physically and waiting. I'm just skipping through different petals. Difference was with this apple. There's only one whole apple. There's no multiple areas. And with this apple, I also stated the same in the tutorial, that I really sat and waited, because I couldn't skip to other apple and paint the other apple. So I applied layer, I waited. I applied next layer, I waited. That's how this apple was painted, and I was telling that during the tutorial. So I waited again for the layer to dry because I have only one area. But if I have multiple areas to work on, I can work non-stop. I can skip 2 petals and paint all the time. While I paint one, the other one is drying. While this one is drying, I can paint the third one, and going over and over again. And paper, really, I am talking about good quality paper. Good quality paper can take up to many layers. Even 300 GSM, 400 GSM, and of course 600 GSM can handle many layers. But if we are using proper good quality paper, which is made for watercolor painting, it has a special sealing so that watercolor can be handled with that paper. About the buckling, there's thing about the buckling. Wait a second. So here I was painting this pumpkin on 300 GSM paper, and it didn't buckle because I'm using really small amount of water. But if that would happen, if my paper would buckle, if 300 GSM paper would buckle, after finishing this paper, I would wait few days till it's completely rested, and then on the other side, I would apply a really transparent layer of water, preferably with such flat brush. I would apply really carefully on the other side, super small amount of water. I don't have anything. I would place it on the flat surface. It can be placed on wood panel, or if it's smaller, it can even place in the book, and I would put some weight on it. And after a few days, it would be completely straight. But it's important to place it on something natural. If you will place it on the plastic surface, it will not work. If you will place it in a book which don't have those, there are books with glanced paper, which is not so natural, then it's also not working. You need to place it on something really natural, like wooden board or book which has normal paper. Those natural materials are absorbing moist and leaving your paper flat, but it also needs to have some weight on it. It also can be, paper can be stretched before painting. I'm using, if I did it previously, before painting in my technique where I'm using lesser amount of water, I was stretching paper before painting. I had a lot of wooden boards. I did the same. I applied water, put it on wooden boards, and then with the special, wait a second. There's this brown tape, gum strip, sealing tape. It's specially for these watercolor papers, to stretch paper. I was placing these strips in water and around paper. I have a tutorial, I think, on YouTube how to stretch watercolor paper, but that I was using before. Now I'm not stretching, even if I'm painting on 200, 300, or 600. I'm using such a small amount of water, so my papers aren't buckling. Even, yeah, for example, here is bigger painting on 300, and it didn't buckle. It's straight. It's not buckling. It's all about the amount of water that you are applying to the paper surface. And there was another question. The resting part is perhaps difficult to convey during online tutorials. I think I explained that before. So if we have multiple areas to work on, we can work non-stop. If I would have an online lesson with this apple, it would be hard because, yeah, I need to really sit and physically wait because the apple is only one. But again, then we can work on leaves, on graphite leaves. We can skip, so not physically wait.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I answered that question. Maybe you ladies have questions.
I have a question, Kristine.
Okay.
On the printer setting, when you give us the line drawings, if we want to put it on our scrapbook that you have, you enjoy the process scrapbook, do we set it at A4 because 5/7 is too small and 9/12 is too big? So it's an in-between size that you have for the scrapbook paper. So is it A4 that you would set it on?
It's not even A4. Where is it? Let me check. So yeah, I think it's closer to A4. It's a little bit, now here I have A4 paper.
Mm-hmm.
And the sketchbook paper is a little bit smaller.
Okay.
But if the line drawing, you can, I don't know how it is with your printer settings, but my printer settings have percentage. So when is 100%, it will come out on A4. But if I know that I need a little bit smaller, I would set in 70%. So it will make a little bit smaller, but not too small. Maybe you can check, maybe your printer settings have these percentages. Then you can print it in any size, make it slightly smaller, super small. It really depends on how many percentages you type in.
Okay. That's what I wondered, because each time I do a line drawing, depending on what paper I'm using, I have to play around with it a little bit. And it's not letter and it's not legal. And we have different paper settings probably than you guys do.
I think, but maybe check if there is because my line drawings are. No, yeah, if you, if I print them, if I'm not even doing anything, that they will come out on A4. This is like our standard for the printer, A4 size.
Okay.
In inches, it's 8.2, and 11.6.
Yeah, and see, our normal, just regular paper is like 9 by 12 or
9
5 by 7 or, you know.
Yeah. This is
So
slightly smaller, slightly.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll check that to see if it has a percentage.
Yeah,
Now,
maybe.
your paper that I ordered from you, is that in A4?
That is A4, yes.
So that would be perfect then. Just set it for A4 and
Yes. It will be, the line drawing should come out perfect for that paper.
okay. Okay, thank you.
But again, with the line drawings, you can play. You can have, for example, that standard size that you said 9 inches by 12. You can have line drawing smaller. It's sometimes even interesting to have, like here, I have this fly agaric. The size of the paper is quite big and the mushroom is quite small compared to this whole. But if I will even frame it, it will look really interesting. And it's very often noticed that botanical paintings are, the surface around is quite big. The surface, the free space around painting is big. It's just making this focal point attention to the subject. If the painting is big and the space around is small, it's making like it doesn't have space. But with botanical painting, it's very often noticed that there is a lot of space, and making it like you are looking and it's breathing, it has a lot of space around it.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe some more questions? Okay. Okay, thank you, ladies, for joining. Thank you very much for coming. Those who I will see on Saturday, I'm looking forward. And next month is November, and I can tell you, I haven't made a plan, but next month we will have a challenge, Christmas challenge. So stay tuned, and we will see something new and interesting during November. So thank you for joining, and thank you for painting and putting trust in me in my teaching style. And have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye, Kristine.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.